Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class, which is a recording of a class given in Mombasa, Kenya, in 1971 by Srila Prabhupada. It's from Canto 2, Chapter 1, and Text number 2. So, without further ado, we'll start the class. Hare Krishna.
apaśyatām ātma-tattvaṁ gṛheṣu gṛha-medhinām. Now, here is one significant factor. Sukadeva Goswami is addressing the king, Rājendra. Formerly, that was the system. The saintly persons, learned Brahmins and sages, they would give instruction to the kings, because the king was in charge of the public affairs. So they would take instruction from the learned, and by their direction they will rule over the citizens. This is the division of 4 orders of life: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. The Brahmana means the most intelligent class of men in the society. Kshatriya means the administrators, the politicians, the rulers of the society. Vaishya means the productive class, traders, industrialists, those who are producing money or food, Vaishya. And Shudra means ordinary worker. That is the Vedic social system, and in the Bhagavad Gita it is said, Chatur Varnam Maya Sistam Guna Karnam Vibhaga. The social order, the Brahman, the Kshatriya, the Vaishya and the Shudra, they are created by me. So, anything created by God is present everywhere within the universe. So, point is that don't think that the Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, these divisions of society are in India only. No, everywhere. Everywhere there are men who are very intelligent. They are supposed to be Brahmin class. The less the politicians, rulers, Kshatriya class, the less the traders, industrialists, they are Vaishya, and the ordinary workers, they are Shudra. So formerly, instructions were given to the administrators so that their brain may be adjusted how to rule over the people. Rājendra Maharaj Parikshit, Rājendra means the emperor of the world. He was taking instruction at the point of his death. This subject matter we discussed in the last meeting, last night, that Maharaj Parikshit, King Parikshit, was just awaiting his death within 7 days. Therefore, he was consulting learned sages what to do So, the Sukadeva Goswami advised that we hear about Krishna. This is the most important subject. Therefore he is discussing śrotavyādīni rājendra. My dear king, Rājendra, śrotavyādīni, subject matter for hearing. nṛṇāṁ santi sahasraśaḥ. The human society has got many thousand varieties of subject matter to hear. Just like newspaper in every country, they are being published not only once, twice, thrice, 4 times in a day, and they are giving the news of the city, and the subject matter are very important, say for 2 minutes or 5 minutes. Then the newspaper is thrown away, nobody cares for it. But people have got the tendency to hear. That is a fact. Now, what subject matter you are interested to hear, that depends on your quality. Because the whole world is running on under 3 qualitative divisions. And under these 3 qualitative divisions, some of them are very intelligent class of men, some of them are administrator class of men, some of them are trader class of men, some of them simply work. So this subject matter is also divided into 3 groups, according to the quality of the readers or hearers. Here Sukadeva Goswami says, for ordinary general people, there are many thousand varieties of subject matter for hearing. That you have got, especially in your country, so many varieties of marriages. Some time ago I was saying that there is a society, diabetic society. All the diabetic patients are members of the society, and they have got magazine, and that is also distributed very well. So that is nice. Division, different division. That is the point not now. It was also in the past days. So Sukadeva Goswami says, the subject matter for hearing, for the people in general, there are varieties. Varieties. Why varieties? Why not one? Why people are not interested in one subject matter? That is implied in the next line, that ātma śrotavyādīni rājendra nṛṇāṁ santi sahasraśaḥ apaśyatām ātma-tattvaṁ. Apaśyatām means those who are blind. Pasya means to see. Or means negate. Those who are blind, those who cannot see, what is that? ātma-tattvaṁ. Apaśyatām ātma. Those who are blind to the subject matter of self-realization. There is a subject matter of self-realization that just like we are body, mind and soul. The soul is covered by the underwear, mind, intelligence and ego, and the underwear is covered by the gross core, this body. This is our body. So, those who are blind to the subject matter of the soul, those who are thinking, I am this body, they are very less intelligent. They are almost animal. The animal cannot think beyond his body. The dog is thinking, I am this body. The cat is thinking, I am this body. Beyond this, he has no power. He is so low grade, therefore he is called animal. But a human being can understand that I am not this body. If a human being can meditate, he can see his hands. Am I his hand? Am I his finger? No. The answer will come. No, it is my hand. It is my finger. Similarly, you study. This is called meditation. You study yourself. So many things, so many subject matter. Take for example, miseries of life. You can meditate upon that I don't want this kind of miseries, but they are enforced upon me. This is a subject matter for meditation. So, a man dies means his body is finished. But a person who is in deeper sense of knowledge, he wants to think about subject matter. What is that thing which is no longer existing so that the man is dead? These are the subject matter for one who is interested in self-realization. ātma-tattvaṁ. This is called ātma-tattvaṁ. To understand oneself, what I am. This is very important part of knowledge in human form of life. In human form of life, if it does not come to this stage of inquiry, what I am I this body? Am I this mind? Am I this intelligence? Or am I something else? So, apaśyatām ātma-tattvaṁ, those who are blind to see the self, for them there are so many subject matter. The newspaper will supply, the magazine will supply. Just like, for example, our students in the Krishna consciousness movement, they never read newspaper, nor any other magazine. They simply read this Krishna consciousness books. We have got so many books. Krishna, Nectar of Devotion, Teachings of Lord, big books. One of the Bhagavatam in 12 parts. So we have got about 20 books already published, and our program is to publish at least 60 books daily. So our subject matter is very vast. We have no time to read newspapers, neither any magazine. Just like a big scientist or a big medical practitioner, he reads scientific medicine, science. A medical man, doctor, physician, he reads medical journals. He does not waste his time in big caption in the newspaper. He has no time. So, those who are interested in self-realization, that is the only business for the human form of life. Human form of life means to make solution of all the problems of material life. Sukham ātma-tattvaṁ. Every one of us, we are searching after happiness. That's the fact. But we are misguided. I am asking somebody, will you give me any information how I can become happy? He is also Western, he gives you something, wrong information. And you try it, I will fall down, there is no happiness. This is the inquiry is there. Where is happiness? What I can do? But unless one is fortunate to come in contact with a person who can give you information of Krishna, you cannot have happiness. This is the fact. So, Vedic instruction is there that if you want happiness, if you want solution of the problems of life, then tad-vijñānāर्थam ca gurumeva vabhigacchit. In order to learn that science where I can get happiness, one must approach a guru, a spiritual one. This is Vedic. Not only in Veda, in all these shastras. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said, Tasmāt gurum prapaddeta jigñāsu śrotavyādīni. Guru, who is to seek after Guru? Not ordinary person. Ordinary persons who are trying to know the news of the world, they do not require any Guru. That is not the system. Their subject matter is supplied by the newspaper, magazines and so many others. But Guru is needed for whom? Jigñāsu śrotavyādīni. One who is inquisitive to learn about the transcendental subject matter. Uttama. Uttama means, Ut means transcendental. And Tama means the darkness. This world is dark. That's why at night now, because there is no more sunshine, it is dark. Actually it is dark. Simply by sunshine, moonshine, electricity, fire, in this way we keep it glittering. Otherwise it is dark. This whole universe is dark. By God's arrangement there is sun, moon, like that. But there is another world where there is no need of sun and moon. And that is spiritual world. That is spiritual. This information is there. So therefore, Uttama, one who is inquisitive to learn about that spiritual world, not of this dark world. The world is dark, I will explain. Against this, there is another world which is full of light. Because unless there is light, there cannot be dark. We cannot understand what is darkness unless there is light. Or we cannot understand light unless there is darkness. So, because this world is dark, therefore you can conclude by logical argument, there must be another world which is full of light. That is not very difficult to understand. Just like here is light, the other world is dark. So because this world is dark, there must be another world which is full of light. Not only your logical conclusion, but it is confirmed by the Vedic literature. And the Bhagavad Gita is said, Parastasmātu bhāvanya bhaktāvatya sanātanā sarveshu nafsasu natad vinasati. It is, information is there, that there is another nature which is sadātma, eternal. This nature, this material nature, darkness, is not eternal, temporary. Just like your body, my body. Everyone's body is temporary. Similarly, this universe, the gigantic body, this is also temporary. It has got a date of creation, and it will be annihilated at a certain day. Everything. Therefore, this dark world and nature is subject to birth, death, old age and disease. By full of life, that is eternal, and even after annihilation of this material world, it remains. That is called sanati, eternal. So, one who is not interested to know about the other nature of life, how that nature is, how there are planets, how living entities are living there, who is predominating, with so many things you have to learn. That is called ātma-tattvaṁ. But people are blind, they don't know. In the university, there is no such education. They are simply satisfied with a knowledge that they are going to moon planet. That's all. Mullah don't know. What is this moon planet? They are living in this material world. There are millions and trillions of other planets. How can go there? Just try to understand how much limited we are. How much our freedom is started in this material world. You are trying to go to the nearest planet, Chandra, moon planet. Still you are uncertain. What to speak of other? There is sun planet. I think they cannot dream of going to the sun planet. It is not possible. But there is a planet in your thought. If you are scientist, if you are advanced, go. But you can go, actually go. People and formerly, they used to go. Just like in Bhagavad Gita, you will see, this is described, Krishna said, Imam bhagavasati yugam kartavanaham abhayam. I, first of all, instructed this system of Bhakti Yoga, Bhagavad Gita, to be sun god. That means Krishna went there. Otherwise, how he could instruct the sun god? Not only that, he said, Vivasan manavipraho manu ikkhāgami pravīt. So, the sun god said to his son, Manu. And Manu is the original person of the man, human being. Manusya. Man, the word comes from the Manu. So Manu is the son of sun god. So he came from the sun planet. And he begot sons here in this planet, Ikkhāku. These are all statements in the Vedic Shastra. Imam Vivasati. So there was connection. In India, there are two kinds of Kshatriya family. Administrator, royal family. The one royal family is coming from the sun god, and the other royal family is coming from the moon god. So, it was not difficult to go to the sun planet. Here you can, just like you are trying to go to the moon planet. Similarly, you can go to the sun planet, you can go to other planets, there are different problems. There is one planet which is called Siddha Yoga. In that planet, the residents are so expert, born expert, that without any airplane or Sputnik, they can travel interplanetary system. They can travel. So these are wonderful things there. So these are the material information. And this material information, they are only 1/4 of the whole creation. That is also stated in the Bhagavad Gita. Adhva bahudaitena kinyatena tavarjuna ekansena vishava aham idam krishnam stito jagat. Stito jagat. Jagat means this material world. This material world means this universe which you can simply see, a big sky. And within that sky, there are millions and trillions of planets. This is one universe. Similarly, there are millions and trillions of universes. And altogether, that is called material world. Altogether. And that is God's one-fourth creation. And three-fourth creation is the spiritual world. So just imagine what is the value of our so-called knowledge. We cannot understand even things within this planet or within this universe, so many planets. So how to understand the other nature where there are spiritual planets, where there are spiritual living entities, they are also working, their center is God. So there are so many information, these are called ātma-tattvaṁ. So apaśyatām, those who are blind or rascals, have no complete knowledge, their subject matter of understanding is newspaper, that's all. Their subject matter is newspaper. Because they are no other information. So, when it was proposed that I am going to translate these 16 volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam for describing God. So some of the friends, they inquired, what is the description 16 volumes of book of God? So our reply was that this universe is a fragment of the whole material creation. And within this universe, there are millions and trillions of planets. Out of those millions and trillions of planets, this planet is most insignificant. And within this planet, there are so many cities. London, New York, Calcutta, Bombay, so on. And from each city, there are hundreds of newspapers. And each newspaper they are publishing 4 times. So, if for this teeny place, there are so many information, just imagine how much information you can have from the spiritual world. Just imagine. So, the 16 volumes of description of the spiritual world is nothing. It is simply sample. If 60 millions of volumes would have been written, still it was insufficient. There are so many information. So, here it is said, apaśyatām. One who has no information of the spiritual world, they are interested in this newspaper and magazines. Apaśyatām gṛheṣu, gṛha-medhinām. Gṛheṣu means they have an impact of understanding. This is my body, or this is my society, or this is my community, or this is my nation, or this is my humanitarian. They can expand. But what is this? Even if you take the whole human society, what is the value? If you take all living entities, there are so many other living entities. Right? Not only human beings, there are animals. 30,000 species of animals. Not 30,000, 100,000. Similarly, 100,000 species of living entities were born. The trees, plants. So, where is the knowledge of all this? Suppose a botanist, naturalist, what knowledge he has got? He can study 1,000 species of plants and trees, but there are 2 millions of plants and trees. Just try to understand how much bigger a small quantity of knowledge you have. It is practically not possible. But at least one must know that this material world, this material body is not nature. At least this self-realization should be there. Otherwise we remain animals. Apaśyatām ātma-tattvaṁ gṛheṣu gṛha-medhinām. Gṛheṣu means within the bound of impact of life. This bodily concept of life, the social concept of life, the national concept of life. No, this unlimited field of activities, and you should try to know. But because we are not interested, we are not educated to become interested, to understand the larger field of spiritual life, we are compact gṛheṣu. Gṛheṣu means at home. Gṛheṣu at home. That's what I remember when the Russian Sputnik was flying in the sky, the man, he was trying to see from that Sputnik where is Russia, Moscow. So this is called gṛheṣu gṛha-medhinām. Our attachment is in this body, or in this society, or in this country. This is called gṛha-medhi. Gṛha-medhi means one who has made his center of activities only home, or nation, or community. He has no other end. Gṛheṣu gṛha-medhinām. They are called gṛheṣu, a cultured man. He is also remaining in the house, but his field of activities is different. That is spiritual knowledge. But here, those who are gṛha-medhi, those who are compact within this body, society and nation, their field of activity is very limited. gṛha-medhinām. Just like a cow in your country, I do not know. I think you have in Hawaii I have seen a cow is stuck up with a rope and it is roaming down that rope. And he is thinking this is the world. That's all. This is the world. So our knowledge is so poor. A little bound up, law, and I am going round about it, and we are thinking that we know everything. Therefore, Sutta Goswami says that these people have many subject matter, so-called subject matter of understanding, but a person who is advanced in spiritual knowledge, his subject matter, that will be explained later on, his subject matter is one, Krishna. That's all. Try to understand Krishna. Don't think Krishna is an ordinary person. He has got vast expensive activities, and you cannot finish in one life what are the activities of Krishna. Therefore in the next part it is said, nṛṇāṁ bhavāyena samāvaya dīvācārtyahaya kutumma bharanena va. Now this materialistic man, their activities are described. Those who have no knowledge of the spiritual world or the spiritual self, simply bodily concept of life like animal, they are gṛha-medhi, compact in this idea. If one can decorate his apartment and decorate his children and wife, he thinks he is much successful man. Or similarly, national nation, if you can have nice road, nice car, nice skyscraper, and all facilities for material happiness, then you think that we are perfect nation. But the thing is, unless you know ātma-tattvaṁ, self-realization, you do not know what is your next life. The next life is there. The next life will depend on your work You may become very rich nation's son. You may have very good asset, but you are not allowed to stay here. Suppose in America you have got so many nice cities, but we sometimes come to see your cities and opulent. But the fact is that in spite of your development of this national asset, you will not be allowed to stay here. That is what it is. And after I leave this place, leave this body, I do not know what is going to happen to me. We are living long. Apaśyatām, ātma-tattvaṁ, because we are blind. Life is not finished by this body. It is a chance. It is a chance. Just like you are going somewhere and you, on the way, you find so many stations. Some of them not very good and some of them very nice. Similarly, this human form of life is a station of our journey. We have begun our journey since we separated from the Supreme Personality of Godhead to become happy without God's connection. Therefore, our journey has begun. We do not know when it has begun, but it is going on through different species of life. Dehantaram prati. Dehantaram means one body after one body after one body after it is going. So here this human form of body is a chance. Lower than this human form of life, you cannot understand self. Ātma-tattvaṁ. It is not possible. But you can understand in this human form of life what is ātma-tattvaṁ. If you miss this chance, if you do not work to understand what is ātma-tattvaṁ, what is self, what is super self, what is the spiritual world, how things are going, so many things you have to know. If you don't know, if you don't try to know, then you are missing the point. And missing the point, we are busy. How we are busy, that is described in the next one. How gṛha-medhinām. We are spoiling our night by sleeping. Gṛha-medhinām, or by sex. At night we have got two business. One who has no facility for sex. He takes some pills and sleeps very sound. That is, or one who has got sex facility, he enjoys. So that is steady. Nṛṇāṁ, bobayana sabhava. Then at daytime, what is the business at day? Divākārtahayārāja. And during daytime, there is business. Where is money? Where is money? Where is money? Divākārtahayārāja. Kutumva bharanīnava. And as soon as one gets money, then go to the storehouse, purchase things for my wife, for my children, for me, for these. So, this is the activity of the materialistic person. Just 5,000 years ago, these two lines were there in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And just see how it is happening even now. This is called sahasraśaḥ. So, where is the opportunity of understanding the self? The whole life is engaged, either in sleeping or in sex life. And the whole day is engaged. You have to get money and you have to purchase things. That's all. Finished, day and night. But I have got this human form of life so important. I have to know myself, but I do not get my time. They do not get time. If this meeting would have been a political leaders meeting, giving all kinds of false hope, millions or billions of people would have come. But because it is a meeting for understanding ātma-tattvaṁ, self-realization, nobody is interested. This is our. So our Krishna consciousness movement is being pushed in unfavorable circumstances. Nobody is willingly responding unless he is very, very intelligent. We cannot get immediately members of the society like the political parties get or the trader parties they get. We have to canvass from door to door. My dear sir, why you are forgetting yourself? Can you try to understand? Here is a book, Bhagavad Gita. Try to understand. Here is a book, teachings of Lord Chaitanya. So our task is very strenuous. Sometimes we become angry, dissatisfied. Why you are bothering me? But we have to do it. Because we have dedicated our life to Krishna. Therefore we have to do it. Krishna comes to do this business himself. Jada jada hi dharmasya glani bhavati bharata abhutthanam dharmasya tadatmanam srijamaham. Because we are sons of Krishna, God. We are misled, bewildered. The father is more anxious to see us go back to home, back to Godhead. Therefore he comes personally. People misunderstand. This Krishna is a human being. Therefore he comes as a devotee, as Lord Chaitanya. He leaves behind him all books of knowledge, Bhagavad Gita. So, we are canvassers. So, our request is that don't take this moment as very sentimental or insignificant. With the greatest harm, greatest Srila, try to cooperate with us and you'll be happy. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. So this is wonderful lectures. A lecture by Srila Prabhupada. So many points are there that are very important for us. He explained lifestyle of a gṛha-medhi, the material lifestyle, and gṛhastha, what they should be about. Gṛhastas are those, yes, they also have homes, but not just for material life. They connect themselves to the understanding of ātma-tattvaṁ, self-realization. And that's what we should be about also. So he says, we are sons of Krishna, so we shouldn't be bewildered. Not by the material energy. Krishna wants us to go back home. He said more times that Krishna actually wants us to go back home more than even we want to go. Because we're trying to make this home, this place, the material world, which is temporary, our home. And we're suffering here, and Krishna sees that, and he is quite concerned about us. That's why he wants us to go home, even more than we ourselves want to go. Dear devotees, this is the time to unmute yourself. If you have any points that interested you, what Srila Prabhupada talked about, you definitely can unmute yourself and share those points. And if you have questions, also you can ask. And some of us on the line, I know gṛha-medhinām is on there, and I would request him to start with comments about this. Devotees can also comment after him, and let's have some discussion about Krishna Katha. Hare Krishna. So Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances.
Accept mine. To Srila Prabhupada. There are a lot of, as you mentioned, a lot of very interesting points that Srila Prabhupada made. Some of them, they stuck out to me. Srila Prabhupada was talking about how this world is intrinsically dark. And last winter, I went to Puerto Rico. And at a certain point, there was a storm. And at the temple, the electricity was out for 2 days, or 2 or 3 days, I forget. And so, sometimes at night there's the moon, but it was a new moon, and it was just completely black. I couldn't, you know, in the middle of the night getting up for the early sadhana, you couldn't see just even 2 inches in front of my face. So it was really stuck, hit home with me about how the darkness of the material world without without electricity, without sunlight or moonlight, it's a darkness, place of darkness. And Srila Prabhupada was going on about newspapers and how we devotees don't focus on reading newspapers. Better, there's reading Krishna conscious literature. And he gave the example of a person asking him, well, how can you write 60 volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam? And then Srila Prabhupada gave that example that he used to quote the same, very similar discussion that his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, had with a famous politician in India named Madan Mohan Malavya. Because Madan Mohan Malavya came to the ashram and was surprised that they were printing 6 or 7 regular daily, or not, some were daily and some were weekly newspapers and magazines about Krishna consciousness. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gave the same exact explanation as Srila Prabhupada did when he was responding to the person who said, how can you write 60 volumes about God? That this universe is only 1/4, and this one universe is one small universe in all the universes, and etc., all the way down to this like that. So the information about Krishna consciousness is unlimited, but because of our limited understanding and poor attention, we have difficulty appreciating it. And he talked about being the newspapers. There's the story of the Christian missionary who went to preach in the mining areas of Wales, and he was threatening people that unless they surrender to Jesus Christ, then they'll go to hell. And so they weren't familiar with all these things. So they asked, well, what is hell? And so it's dark, it's damp, you can't move around these. So then, that's where we're already experiencing that. That's what goes on in the minds. But then he said, the preacher said, oh, but there's no newspapers. Oh, then the people, that's terrible. So preaching according to time and circumstance. But anyway, that point, that the information in the newspapers is ephemeral, and it goes from one day, it'll change from one day to the other when you throw it away. But the transcendental information in Bhagavad Gita and Krishna consciousness is really substantial and can help us make progress back to home, back to Godhead. Just a couple of thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Yes, the Prabhupada made very, very important points in here, especially about the newspapers. People read and then they throw it away. And so many connections that he made for the need, literally, to write so much about the spiritual world. So much could be written about the spiritual world, because these few cities here, well, one has its own newspaper, and sometimes they even have more than one newspaper a day.
It's interesting that this lecture that Srila Prabhupada gave, this is the first time he went to the continent of Africa, and during the first time he went there. So he's giving these instructions for the first time to the people of Africa. That's very interesting. And it's interesting to note that he said, we have got Srimad Bhagavatam in 12 parts. Did you notice that? We have got you. But at that time, we didn't have Srimad Bhagavatam in 12 parts. There was only probably 4 books of Srimad Bhagavatam. So he was understanding the future.
Yeah.
And he also said, the people were trying to go to the moon, but they were unsuccessful. You heard that?
Yeah.
And this was
I don't know how they took
1971,
it.
and the supposed moon landing was 1969. Of course, people have
Mm,
different opinions about that, but this Prabhupada said they were unsuccessful. It's interesting.
yeah. Well, that's people should know by now, hopefully, that the moon expedition is actually not. So many arguments can be brought up to bring up to make the point or conclude that the lunar um, expedition, if you like, for lack of a better word, was actually unsuccessful. But it was just made people to think that way. People working at NASA, some people who are who don't like the people at large to be misled like that have talked about it. And some people have um, mentioned some parts, people working for NASA have mentioned some parts of the whole expedition that is known in science that there are different parts of the sphere, stratosphere, this, that, so many terms there. And then he mentions some parts, one particular part that the temperature is so high that the spaceship simply can't go through that and survive. And but it is, if you want to go to the moon, you have to go through that particular sphere, that area. So that was their way of telling you it can't possibly be true that they actually got to the moon, because the lunar whole expedition would have just burnt up. So they just, so many indirect ways. They were just not saying that they didn't go, but they said this, if they had gone, then this should have been defeated, or this particular problem should have been overcome, but they can't overcome it to this day, and they stopped there. So then you made the conclusion that they couldn't possibly have gone. Or, they say the moon is close to the sun, but Srila Prabhupada says the earth is 93 million miles from the sun, according to the scientists. And if we take that, then the moon is on the other side of the sun. It would take that many miles to get there. And Srila Prabhupada says they could never go there. They never went there, and they would never be able to, in the future, to go there like that, the way they're planning to go from this spaceship. And then I heard something, if you don't mind my talking about it. Then I heard something about an issue that they had. The lunar expedition, they had an issue, trouble, that is, and they were describing how they went about it. But as they were describing it, they said, when they landed on the moon and this, and then they had issues with the spacecraft itself, and then the lunar piece, the lunar machine, that part, um, and they were about 250,000 miles then from the Earth at that time. Then I started laughing, because obviously, if they were 250,000 miles, that couldn't possibly be the moon then. So all of these points are there. And if you know about little pieces, you realize that if you add it all up, the expedition was something else. If you got to any planet, it may have been some other planet closer, but it definitely wasn't the moon. So anyway, Prabhupada has already said that they didn't go to the moon, and some people don't want to believe that, but the facts show if you hear about them. Any other comments or questions? Srila Prabhupada did mention you can go even to the moon, you can go to the sun, but not through the way that the NASA is trying to do it. That's not the way. Any questions? Okay, I'll add a little bit of some and maybe you can end. Then Srila Prabhupada started off with mentioning Brahmanas before he went to talk about the social orders. But the Brahmanas especially would give instructions to the king, because he was talking about Maharaj Parikshit and Sukadeva Goswami. Brahmanas would give instructions to the king, and the king would use the instructions to rule the people. So the social order were Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras. And he defined all four of them. And they said this social order is not only for India, but for everywhere. And Emperor Maharaj Parikshit, Rājendra means emperor, he was to leave his body, so he was asking what to do. And Shukadeva Goswami asked him to hear about Krishna, something we're doing now. So we can leave at any time. So, subject matter is divided according to the mind of the person. It's even said in diabetic society, they are members of a diabetic society, they deal with diabetes, they have, issues that diabetes challenges people, they have a magazine. But these are all, not about self-realization. Then it says apaśyatām, those who are blind to the subject matter of self-realization. Those, or the self-realization or subject matter of the soul. Those who think that I'm the body, they are like animals. Humans are required to understand I'm not this body. For example, am I this finger? No, it is my finger. It belongs to me, but it is not me. Human form of life is such that the question should be raised, who am I? Am I this body? Am I this mind? Am I this intelligence? Those who are blind indulge themselves in so many other matters, but those who are interested in self-realization, humans are actually supposed to bring solutions to material problems. And to learn self-realization, one must approach a guru. Those who are interested in material affairs don't need a guru. Only those interested in transcendental affairs would need a guru. We already talked about the world being dark. Ut means transcendental, and tamas means dark. So uttama, transcending darkness. And he says even logical conclusion is if this world is dark, then there must be another world which is, effulgent, light. And he said it's in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, text 20. Parastasmati bhavonyo yakto vyakta. So he actually showed, he quoted that particular text, another world of light. And I'm sorry, this phone is giving me problems. Another world of light. And the planets are all in the effulgent, which is the Brahmajyoti for us, of course. So we need to learn ātma-tattvaṁ. He actually came to the material, he described some things in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says that he instructed Vedic knowledge to the sun god. So there is the sun god. It's not, difficult for experts in ātma-tattvaṁ to go to the sun planet. There are ways to do it, but not through these regular scientists in the way they're thinking. So, and then he also mentioned that the material world is 1/4 of God's creation and 3/4 is the spiritual world, where there are spiritual living entities. So I'm glad, that you explained that this was the first time he was talking about this to those in Kenya, East Africa. And so, because he was talking about a lot of basic things he brought up here. And of course, he's wanting to translate 60 volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam, and people asked him, how was that possible? And he says, many cities on the earth, they have newspapers for each city. This tiny planet has that. How much more, information about the spiritual world? So many things he talked about. The number of millions of trees, millions of animals, and that's a meager amount of knowledge. He said we should know at least that we're not the body. Otherwise, we'll be thinking like animals. He ended by saying that unless we know ātma-tattvaṁ, we don't know what our next life is going to be. Next life depends on our work in this life, which means he was alluding to karma. When people leave today, they say, after I leave this place, I don't know what's going to happen. But if we don't try to know ātma-tattvaṁ, then we're missing the point of having a human body. People just earn money daytime and then they sleep and indulge themselves in sex at nighttime. Those are materialistic people's activities. And he also talked about political parties. You have a political party meeting, many people will come, but if it's a meeting for self-realization, then nobody's interested. But Krishna really is anxious for us to go back home. So he comes personally. Lord Chaitanya came as a devotee. So finally he said, don't take this movement as sentimental. It is the greatest science, it's the greatest philosophy, and just try to cooperate with us and you will be happy. And that is a very, very important point for us also. If we cooperate with Srila Prabhupada's instructions, happiness and protection will come. Hare Krishna. Right? Any final questions or comments? If not, then I'd like to thank all of you for coming on and have a wonderful Krishna conscious day. Vanchakalpatarubhishcha kripa sindhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna jai.